Have you ever wondered why we eat what we eat? Burgers, pastas, fruits, and vegetables? Or what about why do we even have favorite foods? In a world full of so much food variety, why do we keep returning back to our favorite meals of spaghetti and meatballs? Even the animal kingdom has favorites. I'm sure you've heard the stories of rabbits' favorite food being carrots or cats liking fish. While these stories may not exactly be 100% true, there is something to be said about food specialization in the animal kingdom. So today, let's take a look at our favorite furry friend, the southern sea otter. Do they have a favorite food to eat, and why could that be? Anhedra lutris, the southern sea otter, is a marine mammal that is descended from the family Mustelids. That means they're close relatives are animals like the weasels, river otters, ferrets, and other long furry friends. Like the other mustelids, sea otters are obligate carnivores, meaning that they consume only meat. Of course, the ocean is a wide place and that makes finding food, otherwise known as foraging, rather difficult. With how difficult it is to forage even in the kelp forest, sea otters can't afford to be picky, right? Well, studies show that the opposite is true. Food specialization in sea otters at the central coast of California is a well-documented phenomenon. The individual variation between sea otters can even be broken down into 3 distinct categories. Type 1 specialists are sea otters that feed on large and hard-to-find prey that are nutrient-rich, so invertebrates like crabs and abalone will be targeted by these otters. Of course, Type 1 otters need to dive deeper, up to 9 to 12 meters at a time, and often they have fewer successful dives where they catch prey. Swimming so deep and so much can be pretty energetically costly, so that means that the food that they do catch has to be pretty fulfilling. Their PDI, or time between dives, is pretty strongly correlated with their diving success. That means that they're spending quite a bit of time between food dives, either processing their food or grooming. Type 2 specialists are sea otters that feed on small to intermediate sized prey. Clams, mussels, kelp crabs, and other bivalve mollusks are all on their dinner table. Type 2 specialists dive much shallower in comparison to the other types at just 5 to 6 meters and have much more frequent prey acquisition alongside having more variation in the species of prey that they forage. Their PDI is pretty similar across their dives, meaning that the time they spend handling their prey is consistent. While the food that they catch isn't quite as fulfilling as abalone or crab, their prey are common enough and filling enough to sustain them between successful and unsuccessful foraging dives. And of course, last but not least, the Type 3 specialists. The otters that feed almost exclusively on small invertebrate species like snails. Their feeding dives are in between Type 1 and Type 2 specialists as their preferred prey likes to hang out on the eaves of the kelp forest branches. With each dive, Type 3 specialist otters bring up multiple of snails at a time, which causes their PDI to vary quite a bit due to the handling time varying. Every one of their food dives was successful, so even though one snail isn't quite filling, they're eating a lot of them at once. Every time! Prey preferences have even been seen being passed down through generations, as a form of cultural transmission as mothers teach their offspring to forage. Entire lineages will have a preference for which type they specialize into. So sea otters have food preferences. But why would that even occur? Well, studies have shown that in areas with much greater food availability or food-rich environments, see so much more generalist sea otters in comparison to the specialist sea otters of the central California coast. That is to say, the foraging style of individual otters is highly dependent on the availability of food in a given area. With less food, sea otters have to pick what type of prey they specialize into so that they can eat and not compete with other otters and predators. But in an area with lots and lots of food, there isn't as quite much pressure to pick and choose. Foraging efforts are also dependent on the phenology of the otters. Female otters who are capable of reproducing are going to have much more variation in foraging efforts as they undergo estrus, pregnancy, and maternal care of pups. This means that they'll change dietary patterns of hunting at certain times in order to avoid predation from larger predators in addition to the seasonal variation of prey availability and quality. What they eat and when they eat is subject to change as time continues forward. Today, we've learned about the dietary preferences of sea otters of the central California coast. Food preferences and specialization is related to the availability of food in a given area, while the specific preferences in prey are often passed down by mother to offspring. So, what's your favorite food?